There followed a good deal of tedious business with the captain, who came by to pay his compliments, and a discussion with the waiter about what we should eat and what wine was drinking well this week, to which the two of them gave not quite as much discussion as Eisenhower held with his aides on the subject of D-Day. I let them order for me. This done, Mark gave me a rundown on his business and dropped a dozen or so bold-faced names, which were largely lost on me, although when he observed this he helpfully provided the identifying surnames for the various Bobs and Donnas and Brads so dropped. Business was apparently booming. The art market was going nuts again. The 16,000-square-foot houses that people of a certain standing now require have lots of wall space that cannot be left blank, and since the rich are no longer paying taxes, money was squirting through New York like a fire hose, and a lot of it was going into high-end art. Then we talked about his current artist, young Mono. He asked me what I thought. I told him wallpaper of a superior grade. He laughed. It's his pretense that I'm opposed to non-representational art on principle, like Tom Wolfe. I've never been able to explain to him why that's not the case, and he spent a while bending my ear about the dynamic values and hidden wit of his kids' wallpaper. Asked me how I was doing. I told him about the Vanity Fair fiasco, but left out the part about the show at Lottie's. He's always trying to get me in with him in a business way, and I won't do it. Don't ask me why. I admitted I was in deep shit. No shame in that. Maybe 50 grand in the hole. And he said he'd just gotten back from Europe, buying pictures. Talked about hotels, the luxe life. A completely insensitive guy, yeah, but I know him a long time now. I asked him what he'd bought, and he said he'd gotten a nice small Cerezo and a couple of Caravaggisti I'd never heard of, and some Tiepolo drawings almost good enough to be genuine. Laughed here, just kidding. But you have to be a shark over there. Everyone wants to sell you a missing Rubens, and I said it sounded like a perilous life. Then he asked me if I could work fresco, and I said I hadn't in a while, not since I'd done the St. Anthony Seminary out on the island with my father when I was a kid, and why was he asking? And he said he had a nice little project for me if I could get away to Europe. An Italian zillionaire he'd met in Venice had bought a palazzo with a Tiepolo ceiling in bad shape, ruined really, and he might be able to get me in there. And I said I wasn't interested, and he said, "You didn't ask how much." So I asked, and he said 150 grand. He had a gotcha look in his eye that I hated, and I said I might be interested, but it couldn't be for a while, after Christmas really, because I was committed to participating in a drug study being run by Shelley Zubkov. When he heard the name, he laughed, and we did the whole small world thing that people do in New York, and he asked about it, and I told him the story of what had gone down while I was on the drug. He pumped me pretty dry on the subject, which I thought was a little funny, because Mark mainly likes to talk about himself and his experiences. He said it sounded a little scary, and I agreed that it did, but I still wanted to go on with it because of the effect it was having on my painting. So we ate minuscule portions of pretentious food, the sort of stuff that Lottie calls gourmet cat food, and drank a lot of expensive Chambertin, and he filled me in on the gossip of the art world, who was up, rising, falling, or down, and while he talked I could not, as he'd obviously intended, get out of my mind the prospect of earning 150 grand for a month or so of work. I said, "Okay, you got me. Tell me more about this palazzo job." And he did, and it turned out that the palazzo had been vacant for a while, and the roof leaked, and the ceiling had essentially collapsed. So it wasn't a restoration job exactly, but more like a reproducing job, which kind of pissed me off because it was getting into the forgery zone. But he said, "Not at all, no way. Not only do we have a photo of the ceiling, but we even have Tiepolo's original cartoons for the thing. You'll be one with the masters, except with electricity." "You know this Italian guy personally?" I asked. "Castelli," he said. "Giuseppe. He's big in cement and construction. Builds airports, bridges, like that." "But do you know him?" "Not as such. I met him at a dinner Werner Krebs organized in Rome. That name mean anything to you?" "No, should it?" "Probably not. He's an art dealer, old masters, very big in Europe, private sales, multi-million-dollar level." Well, that lets me out of his circle, being a young master myself. Yeah, you could say that. You know, Wilmot, you're a fucking piece of work. You're always broke. You do shit magazine work for peanuts, and all the time you're sitting on $1 million talent. Christ, you could be another Hockney. Maybe I don't want to be another Hockney. Why not, for crying out loud? Look, you want to do representational? You think I can't sell representational? There are people dying for representational work. They only buy the conceptual and abstract shit because they think they should, because people like me tell them to buy it. But they hate it. If you really want to know the truth, what they'd really like is an old master, or a Matisse, or a Gauguin, something where they don't have to read the artist's statement to know what's going on. I'm talking people who have $1 million, $1.5 million to spend on art. It's a huge fucking market. Why aren't you getting rich off it? I finished my glass of wine and filled the glass again. I don't know, I said lamely. Whenever I think about doing another gallery show, it makes me sick. I want to get drunk, dope myself into oblivion. You ever think about seeing someone about that little problem? A shrink? Yeah. Oh, doctor, save me. I can't participate in the corruption of the art market. Vermeer had the same problem, you'll recall. He did about one painting a year, and when he could bring himself to sell one, sometimes he used to go back and try to buy it back. Then his wife would take the painting back to the buyer and beg him for the money again. So he was a nut. So was Van Gogh. What does that prove? We're talking about you, the Luca Giordano of our age. The who? Luca Giordano, the painter, Neapolitan, late 17th century. Hey, you're an art major. You took Italian painting in the 17th. I must have been out that day. What about him? Fastest brush in the West, and he could imitate any style. They called him the Thunderbolt, or Luca fa presto. Luca, go faster. Interesting guy. A major influence on Tiepolo, as a matter of fact. Never developed a real style of his own, but that didn't matter, because if you wanted a sort of Rubens or a sort of Ribera, Luca was the man to see. He once did a Dürer that was sold as a genuine Dürer, and then he told the guy who'd bought it that he'd done it. Why would he do that? Because he wasn't a forger. The client took him to court for fraud, but Luca got off when he showed the judge that he signed the painting with his own name and covered it with a layer of paint, and also that he never personally stated it was a Dürer. He left that to the so-called experts. The judge threw the case out of court. After that, it was balls to the wall for Luca. He imitated just about every famous artist of his time. And the previous generation, too, Veronese, the Carraccis, Rembrandt, Rubens, Tintoretto, Caravaggio, especially Caravaggio, and always with the hidden signature so he could skate on any forgery charges. When he was court painter to Carlos II in Spain, he forged a Bassano from a private collection, a picture he knew that the king wanted, and after it got bought he told the king it was a fake and showed him the hidden signature. The king cracked up. He thought it was terrific and complimented him on his talent. I mean, the guy was a rogue, but a genius with a brush. So are you paying me a compliment with this comparison? I asked. Or is it a put-down? I don't know, he said slyly. However you want to take it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here with a guy who could make literally millions off his talent, and he's pissing it away with hack work. And when he finally does a show, hallelujah, he does it at his ex-wife's low-end gallery. It offends my professional dignity is what it is, like if I was a theatrical agent and I went to a coffee shop every day and there was Julia Roberts or Gwyneth Paltrow slinging hash. What is this gorgeous woman doing here, I'd ask myself, and I'd want to do something about it. Not to mention you're an old pal. How did you know I was having a show at Lottie's? He shrugged. I have my ways. Very little goes on in the art world in the city that I don't get to hear about. Anyway, I don't want to be a bore about it, but if you ever want to get your hands on some serious money, for example, did I tell you my idea about almost old masters? I said he hadn't, and he told me. Let's say you're a guy who's clearing, say, $10 million a year in, I don't know, real estate or Wall Street, whatever. There are 50,000 guys like that in the city, right? This guy's got everything. The apartment, the house on the island, the car, his kids are going to the top schools. He's got a small collection of important pieces, modern stuff, but appreciating pretty well. Which he bought in your recommendation, of course. He laughed. Of course. We stipulate the guy's sharp. So what this guy can't buy yet is major art. Cézanne, Van Gogh, Picasso, they're all out of range. Not to mention Rembrandt, Bruegel, the old masters. It's a gap in his self-image. Also, let's say his wife likes traditional furnishings. He can't hang a Butzer or a Miyake up there. It'd look like shit. But what if I can sell him a nice little Cézanne fake? A nice, almost Reni Madonna. The gilt frame, the little brass light above it. No one but an expert can tell it from the real thing. Obviously, we're not going to do Girl with the Red Hat or the Mona Lisa, not at all. We're going to do obscure stuff. Small, but beautiful. The guests come in and they say, "Hey, is that a Cézanne?" And our guy says, "It may be. I picked it up for a song." These will be signed? He wrinkled his face disapprovingly. Of course not signed. Jesus, that's all I need. No, it'd be exactly like, fake gems. Cubic zirconiums. A woman has a 40-carat ring. She doesn't wear it to the grocery store or the country club. It's in a vault, and she wears a custom-made fake, which all her friends accept because, 1, they all do the same thing, and 2, because they know she's got the real jewels. So our guy is demonstrating he's got taste. And also, and this is the big selling point, maybe he's got a lot more money than his pals thought because look what's on the walls. Cézanne, Corot. What do you think?